Alrighty fellers, so today we're going to be talking about Mopar 4-speeds, and actually generally just 4-speeds in general, but we're working on an 18 spline A33 for my 70 Charger. And well, we're getting away from the stock steel tube rod ends. There's slop in it. Of course, this slop wouldn't exist if we had the factory shifter and a nice new one that didn't have worn out holes that require all the bushings. Problem is, none of the bushings really seem to take the slop up. So we got a Hurst super shifter headed up to our pistol grip. This is from my 70 Charger Jezebel. Yes, that Jezebel, the ratty blue turd. It's got that big tunnel rammed big block, and now we got the 4-speed back, which is freaking awesome. Thank you, my buddy Jesse, who rebuilt that for us. And we got parts from Brewers Performance, which if you are going to do anything 4-speed related for a Chrysler, you got to see the guys at Brewers, which, as you can see, is proudly displayed right there on top of my toolbox. It's brewersperformance.com. They are the Mopar 4-speed people. And we got the Heim joint rod ends from Jegs, but there's the big gnarly 634 horsepower 500-inch stroker. Pretty weak for 500 inches with those heads, but you know what? It did everything we needed to do. So we are working on making this shift setup much nicer. So we've got rod end Heim joints here, which are amazing because, say, if you need to do an adjustment, instead of having to take the stuff off, now it's literally you just turn the Heim joint, tightens it up, loosens it up, and you just lock these down, your jam nuts. Freaking money. Nothing really wear out. In fact, we actually got that one just a little too close, but we'll work on that later. But we got these from Jegs, which you can normally order like a kit like this from Speedway, but this is actually cheaper if you buy the left-handed Heim joint, the right-handed Heim joint, and then you buy this steel tube. It's threaded. It's literally cheaper just to do that and buy 3 of them. So that's what I did. So we got the reverse one already cut and made. I wanted to make sure I wasn't screwing up. Now we got that one done. The thing to remember is I've got this tape on here in this way because you're gonna have to re-tap this end to 3/8/24. Thank God it's a SAE American and not metric, because I don't own a single metric tap. But yeah, you're gonna have to shorten them. You know, now if you had an E-body or something that had the shifter in the back, these would probably work no problem. In fact, that one might be a little short, but yeah, as you see, I just lay this guy up here, and we'll actually get it bolted. So we're taking some 3/8 bolts, we're running them through the holes, which are actually exactly what they need to be, and then I'm locking it on with a jam nut, so that way it's securing it to the mounting tab, and it spaces it out just enough so the way the Heim joint can move and get to the angle it needs to be, so you don't have to run some weird spacer block system. And you just run the nut on top of it, jam it all together, and you're good to go. Now this reverse lever here, no matter what, I can't fight it, I can't get past it, but there's just that much slop. But it's better than the factory deal. It's got the bushing in there, but these ones I think will be able to cure all the slop. It's gonna be a little tricky trying to figure out how to get our bolts in there, but we're also using the age-old deal. Take a nice flathead screwdriver, and you see that hole right there. That actually goes through all the gate plates, or at least our reverse lockout. And you see that hole right there. So you take this screwdriver and you run it through, and that locks everything in true neutral. Right there. And by the way, for anybody curious, Michael's over, and he's over his COVID thing. He was pretty bad off. I'm just glad he's still here, but yeah, I'm working on this because we got the transmission back. I got to get all this done. I got to redo the hydraulic throw-up bearing, and then we can get Jezebel back on the road. So this will be kind of a tutorial thing, mostly just this is what I'm doing. This is how I did it. So oh yeah, I got to tighten that one up actually. That's really loose still. I can turn it. I don't want to be able to turn that. So that's what we're doing. Hope you guys learned something. Hope you enjoy it, and we'll catch you next time. Well, not really next time. We're just when I get ready to cut a piece of tube. Alrighty, so I'll just go ahead and show you one thing I had to do on this bolt just to make sure it was long enough. I was running this 3/8 18 bolt. These ones are too short, don't use those. This one was the one you saw on it that was, it didn't have a full thread engagement. It was, we had about, an 1/8 inch of threads, not fully engaged, and I prefer to have the full nut locked on because I'm going to run nylocks out here. So what we have to do is we have to go to the next size longer. However, it's got that shank, so we need, I just marked it there because this one needs a bushing. So slide the bushing on. As you can see, that's right where the old bushing stops. So we run it through there, and as you can see, here's just that little bit of slop. So I can't do much about that. That'll be fine. Once it's jam nutted on, I think that'll mostly go away. So I need to run my die down that far, so that way I can run the nut all the way down and jam it on. So doing something like this, it's obviously there's no easy kit where it just kind of goes together. It's a lot of fabrication and a lot of making stuff work. It's just like, you know, you had to make these because they start out this long, and well, that's just a little bit too long, if you know what I mean. So I'm gonna go run my die down on this. I'm gonna get all my bolts situated. We'll probably show you cutting this and retapping it, which most of you guys should know how to do, but just for the guys who don't, we'll just show it. God, that looks cool right there. Alrighty, so a little progress update. Ran into a little snafu. So much for this being, you know, like the budget friendly deal, because I actually had to machine the heads of those two 3/8 bolts, that way they would clear together, because they were wanting to touch. And right there, there's not a lot of clearance, but there's enough clearance there. There's an air gap. Right where bolt head was just too much, wasn't enough room. So originally I had machined it down to this much, and I was like, that's not enough clamp. So I split the difference further between the two, and I was able to have enough head of the bolt left where I felt comfortable. So now I've got the rod and heim joints where they'll clear inside of there, as you can see. No problem at all. Goes all the way through, forward and back. Now I have to combat this. So this rod end actually wants to be dead center of this rod, of this shift tab. And that's a problem because this needs to be either flat. This one needs to either be flat now, so that way this can sit on the outside, or it needs to be extended out further. I think I'll go check my stash, see if I got some ones that are just flat. If they're just flat, I can put it right there. And then this one, we won't worry about. So by the way, you didn't know, this is reversed down here, obviously. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 3 and 4 is closest to the engine. So I'm gonna go see what I can find. Hopefully that solves that. Then we can cut and retap this one, and we'll be ready to rock and roll some more. Alrighty, so Michael and I have been sitting here eyeballing this thing, I don't know how long, maybe an hour or two, just changing things. I actually took one of my extra pieces of rod end here, oh, right here, and Michael's gonna vacuum his truck out, but drilled the hole out, shortened it so that way I could get a sleeve made, so that way I could test fit this one to see if it's gonna clear. And yeah, so I actually had to swap the 1 and 2 and the 3 and 4 mounting brackets, because the angled spaced out one was originally here on 1 and 2, and what I was doing is making the rods hit because they got to cross over one another. So now I can actually make the proper end for this one and for this one. If I have to run this one spaced out further, I can, but I don't think I'm going to have to. And regardless, if I have to make a small spacer, I can. So now I can drill this out to 3/8 and this one out to 3/8, so that way I can run a 3/8 bolt, which is the size our heim joints are, which I don't have any free ones laying around, and we'll be good to go. And so I was thinking about, you know, this is supposed to be stronger and easier to adjust. Well, 3 and 4 in reverse would be much easier to adjust now, because it's literally break the jam nuts, screw it out, screw it in, whatever. However, 1 and 2, getting to that jam nut inside of there is going to be a little tricky. But hopefully you just don't do that many adjustments. So I'm going to get the rods cut, threaded, and hopefully get this thing assembled, and we'll be able to check it out. Alrighty, so just going to get ready to cut this one. This is for the 1-2 right there. Been eyeballing it. Want to make sure I got plenty of room so I can adjust it, either to loosen or tighten it. You don't want to make it to where it's perfectly extend it out, you want to be able to have some wiggle room, just like on this one. You see a little bit of engagement, a little bit of thread there, and a little bit of thread on that end. So there's a couple ways you can cut this: cut off wheel, hacksaw, lathe. There's a lot of options. Me personally, I have a lathe, much nicer cut, and the lathe's already set up, so I'm just gonna cut it in the lathe. Alrighty, so as far as parting it, it's pretty simple. I mean, let's see, if I cut on that side of the line, I'm gonna be a little bit short, so we're gonna move her down. That's about where I want it. And then we're gonna bring her in, start the cut. We're committed now. There it goes. Let's run our cutter there, make sure we're clean. Move the compound rest back. Get that out of the way. And then very carefully, very carefully, with one hand, we're going to chamfer that edge. Kill the lathe. Wait for it to come to a complete stop. Unlock our jaws. And there we go. That should be cut to the right length. And now we just got to chuck it in the vise. And yeah, I could put it in the lathe and tap it, but I always like tapping by hand. I get a good feel for everything. But we'll come over here. We'll just make sure it's right. We were a little bit on the short side, but that's actually going to be okay because that thread sticking out is actually going to be in half, so it's going to be more like that. Perfect. I'll go tap this. I'll be back. Alrighty, and one thing for sure you need to make sure you do is not get in a hurry, or you're going to wind up cutting the wrong end. Oh, there goes that spring clip. Whoops. So in my haste, I cut the wrong end of the tube, which is okay. So I don't have any left-handed taps, so I'm going to have to cut the left-handed side, which is the opposite end, so that way I can retain the factory thread, so I can then tap the other end for right-hand threads, which is what I did here. And on this one, I was like, wait, did I cut the right end? I was like, crap, that's right-handed on this end. So that one, it's a waste. So now we can rip this guy off. And if everything is groovy and baby Jesus still loves us, this should all work. Now, unfortunately, I did run into a problem where I will not be able to drill out these holes because this stuff is super hard steel and not even our really nice drill bits will get through it. I got some really fancy high-speed steel drill bits and they won't even touch those. So those are going to stay 5/16, which is unfortunate because that little bit of slop there, and then when you got a 3/8 heim joint on it, I'm hoping that'll tighten up a lot. These are just loose still, so but I'm gonna get this tube on there and make sure everything's gonna work out, and I'll be back. Alrighty, and just like that, that actually tightened up really good, that 5/16. So you could have probably used 5/16 on that one too, but the hole was big enough for 3/8, so we went that route. And so was this. So all these got the bushings to neck them down. So 5/16 is going to work there. Now we get to start making this one. Now that one is attached. We'll go ahead and make this one as if we don't need the spacer. But just proof concept here. We'll pull our screwdriver out, which is holding us in true neutral. First, second. Yeah, first, neutral, second. And then I can't get in reverse because I got to hold everything, but yeah, it's going to work out pretty good. I got some adjustments to do here. They'll first don't feel like first, it kind of goes in too easy, but maybe that's the point. It's almost like it's not locking in all the way. Maybe I need to lengthen this bad boy out. No, I need to shrink it. Yeah, that might be the problem, is that jam nut might be getting in the way, preventing it from going all the way. I bet you that's what it is. Alrighty, well, there it is. I'm sorry for such a massive jump there, but Dad got home, was talking to my buddy William, who has a YouTube channel actually. Charger 383 Mopar if you love chargers, especially cool, ratty chargers. So there you go, William. It planned out for you to call me at that exact time. So while I was talking to William, I got this last rod made. I did not need a spacer, and the screwdriver falls in and out for true neutral. That's how it should be. We got these all adjusted. I still got to tighten and Loctite. We're going to put top locks on these instead of nylocks. But there's first, second, third, fourth, and I would go into reverse, but that requires two hands to hold transmission. You see it? Just right in and out. Perfect. Don't ask how much this costs to do, because I can't remember what it cost me through Jegs. We had to buy the sleeves, and then we had to buy each heim joint. It may have been, it's cheaper than the Speedway kit, and the Speedway kit comes with a crappy universal shifter. It was still cheaper, even if you disregard that crappy shifter. But I mean, if you just wanted super simple, Speedway sells a kit, but I also like the Jegs kit better. These are, so that worked out pretty good. It took quite a bit of work to get everything spaced just right. You know, there's really no science, no proven method to this. And the one part I really didn't want to do, because it kind of kills the low buck nature, was turning down the heads of them bolts down in there. But William made a good point. It's still low buck because you could do that with a bench grinder. You don't have to have a lathe to do that. So, and of course, there's probably other bolts you could use that would probably work. But that's just what I have a lathe, so that's what I did. I used hacksaw to cut this one, and I used my lathe to cut this one and this one. And I actually had to shorten this one. I still need to shorten it a little bit more because it's fully bottomed out right now to get full adjustment. So I'll do that tomorrow. And Dad has these he can put on his transmission, or we will buy him this stuff. He's still debating on what he wants to do. Of course, I'm not going to charge him to do it. But this works fantastic. I like this. Like I said, you do have to swap these levers so that way you get proper clearance. As you can see, we have plenty of clearance on everything, even when we go into gear. So that's one step closer. Okay, guys, so this has been a couple weeks afterwards, because we've been busy painting and fixing everything. Sat down and thought about how I had all the linkage set up, and I actually found a much better way of doing everything and actually solving the hard clunk in reverse that all 833s seem to have the issue of. So first off, I ended up putting a spacer up here, and like I had said, we had moved normally it would be the 1-2 shift rod, which normally sits here. We put it up here to get the offset so we would clear the 1 and 2. So the 3 and 4 now clears the 1 and 2. And to demonstrate, pull it over, and you see how easy that is. And we've actually got a pretty good little gap there, good enough. And you see how easy that is. So let me just show you this too. Now that we moved it, take your screwdriver for true neutral, no issues. Just falls in and out. That is exactly what you want for true neutral. So what we also did was we ditched, normally on reverse it's a straight plate, much like this guy right here, and it's shorter. So we ended up finding this guy and the A-body bucket of 4-speed parts I had, and it's not only is it longer, but it also offsets it towards the transmission, which makes that shaft just a little bit more linear, which with anything, the straighter the line it can be, the better. So that's much better. There's hardly no play in any of these, which is what we were after. Actually, that one just got a little bit. It's perfect. And we had a bronze spacer in here, but it took a flight to freaking Timbuktu. I don't know where it went, so I made a new one out of aluminum a little bit longer. And these are all top locks, because nylocks probably wouldn't be able to handle the heat. So we've used top locks here, here, and here, and here, and here, and one in there. And basically everywhere there could be a top lock, it's got a top lock now. So it's super secure. Everything is blue Loctite. And where we had to put the bushings back in, we actually green Loctited those in the sleeve retainer to lock them in there so that way they glue in nice and strong. We Loctited these bolts into the shifter. And I don't know if I can do this one-handed without holding the transmission. We'll see. But as far as reverse, yep, close. No, can't do it without holding the transmission. Now we're scratching our paint up. Hang on. Okay, if you're not holding the front of the transmission, it's kind of a pain in the butt, but I got it in reverse now. As far as getting out of reverse, it's much easier. So yeah, I think this is going to work out pretty dang slick. There's first, second, third, fourth. Boom. Pull out a reverse lockout. There it is. It's all painted up, duded up. This is how it's going to go into Jezebel. And pretty happy with it. I like that dark gray. That's what I use on my Dana 60. And I've got some nicks. I actually put primer, and I took a lot of time. Paint, clear coat, primer, everything on that bad boy. Gotta try and make it survive and not rust out immediately, or get rusty. So, as always, guys, thanks for checking it out. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. As always, catch you next time. Bye-bye.